Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate you guys for rocking with us for another episode. We got a lot of news that we got to break down on today's show. Ian Cunningham seems like he may be the leading guy based on what Adam Schefter is saying for the Jacksonville Jaguars job. Also, we got a chance to finally hear from the new OC in DC, Dennis Allen and Declan Doyle. Some major takeaways for me from the press conference today. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys as always. Everybody who is fans of the show, man. Everybody who tunes in and enjoys the content, man. We love you guys. Stay safe out there. And Big Bear Dons all the way around. Drop some Bear Dons in the comments below, man. Let's start off with the Ian Cunningham story. I think this is a great place to start because to me, this is one where picking up steam. Of course, there's some compensation that works in favor for the Chicago Bears, but I think there is a pros and cons to everything when you talk about the Ian Cunningham situation. But it starts off here from the Adam Schefter podcast, and why this is probably picking up a little bit more steam is because Adam Schefter said on his podcast today he's going to be a candidate for the Jaguars job. Some might say he's the leading candidate for the Jaguars GM job. I don't know if he's the leading guy or the guy, but he's certainly going to be in the mix. This now has everybody up in a tizzy because of the draft compensation that could come from Ian Cunningham possibly moving on. Now, he's been with the Bears since 2022. He's interviewed for vacant GM jobs pretty much over the last few seasons. And last year, he was passed over for that Washington Commanders head of football operations job. So remember, like, this is not new to him. That one ended up going out to who's his name? Adam Peters, I think is his name there. He's been a finalist for the Titans job. He's been a finalist for the Cardinals job. And apparently he actually got that Cardinals job, but turned it down to come back here. I think that when you talk about, remember we talked about Ben Johnson being very picky on where he wanted to go, and then we talked about all the interviews that he ended up taking, blah, blah, blah. This really has been Ian Cunningham being very selective about where he's comfortable going and whether he wants to be a part of what they're looking to rebuild. Now, I made the joke, right, when we all heard the Duval, I don't know what the heck that was, right, from Liam Cohen, that Ian, don't go. There's not going to be a lot of winning going on there. But I do wonder if Ian Cunningham looks at that situation and says, listen, I've got to make it work with a quarterback who maybe he turns into this generational guy 4 years into his career. Maybe he doesn't, but I've got to make it work with a quarterback down there who just at times isn't the guy that people have billed him to be. On top of that, I have to go down there, fix this offensive line yet again. It's a full-on rebuilding process. Is that something that I want to be a part of versus, and not to say every situation you're going to isn't going to be a full-on rebuild process, right? But is it a rebuild process where you can get out of it successfully? Because you're still going to have to pay Trevor Lawrence. So you're going to go in there, see a couple of years of Trevor and say, okay, we got to trade this kid away. Like, then you're putting yourself in a completely different direction. Now you're turning the entire ship. That my thing is, if you're going to start from zero anyway, why not actually start from zero versus starting with guys who have money on the books? I don't know if it is a foregone conclusion that Ian Cunningham is just up out of here. And I'm going to look at the Schefter quote as well, but I do want to bring this out. If he were to leave, the Bears would get 2 third-round picks over the next 2 NFL drafts, one in 2025, one in 2026. So it would be very helpful to Ryan Poles here and giving him more opportunity, more bites at the apple to go out there and find some really solid pieces. But let's go back to what Schefter said here. He said he's going to be a candidate for the Jaguars job. Some might say he's the leading candidate for the Jaguars job. I don't know if he's the leading guy. When Schefter knows, and remember what we just saw with Ben Johnson. People are sitting there left and right throwing stuff out there. Oh, he's a shoo-in for the Raiders job. It's his job if he wants it. He's the number one guy. This is the guy that the Raiders are going to get. And Adam Schefter was the only one sitting there going, well, what about the Bears? Why wouldn't he take the Bears job? Why are we ignoring the Bears? What about the Bears? Schefter knows when something is kind of going in that direction. He's in the know. He understands the people he's talking to. That there are some people that may feel he is the leading candidate, but based on some of the stuff that you hear, and this is just me pulling my opinion on this. I feel like if Shefty knew he was the leading guy, Shefty would go out there and put his name to say, I feel like he's the leading guy. When I hear, I don't know if he's the leading guy or these guy, but he's certainly going to be in the mix. That to me sounds like, listen, he may be one of those candidates who is one of the top candidates, but it really comes down to, is he the number one, or does he want that job to be the number one? I would assume Ian Cunningham does want to be a GM somewhere because he keeps taking these interviews for the GM jobs. You would assume that he wants to be a part of an organization and be able to build his own legacy, build his own brand, build his own championship level team. But that doesn't, I think history has shown us that he's not just going to take any job. When you look at that Cardinals job, this was a very similar situation. They had a quarterback who was already under contract, who you were going to have to continue paying, who maybe you didn't have as much belief in. You had some offensive pieces already on that team. That felt like a job you could walk in and go, okay, we just got to add some pieces here in the draft and we could figure some things out. No, he did not want that job. So my biggest question is, why would he want this Jacksonville Jaguars job now with Liam Cohen down there, who knows what that's going to end up turning into? The Duval just scares me, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I said this with Courtney on. He seems like the kind of guy that'd wear your skin after I saw that. But I am excited by the fact that Ian Cunningham's name continues to be in these cycles, that it seems like the Bears could get the draft capital from this. If he were to go, I would love to have those draft picks. I think that those are guys that could turn into offensive linemen for the Chicago Bears, defensive linemen. Third round picks are valuable picks, which is why seeing Ian Cunningham go would be so massive for the Chicago Bears. But I do wonder, when I hear Shefty say it like that, if we're really going to see him leave this coaching cycle, if that's a job that with Liam Cohen now in place that he wants to leave for this coaching cycle. We'll wait to see. I want to know how you guys feel in the comments below, man. Let me know your thoughts down there. Do you feel like Ian Cunningham is going to be gone? Do you feel like this is a job that he wants to go after? Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Make sure you drop a bar down with that. Hey, hit that like button. Subscribe to the page, man. Stop playing with us. Let's keep this thing moving along, though, because, by the way, some good news here, just for the people. Quick break in the show. Reason that we're not doing a full-on show, Courtney had some things going on, and today I get to go up to the hospital and pick up my son from the NICU and bring him home to be with our family. He's been in the NICU for, I don't know, probably about 4 weeks now because he was born premature. So that's why you're getting me kind of in this, boom, let's do a quick hitter show, and then we're going to make a move. I'm so excited to get Paxton back here to the house and just finally be able to adjust to having a crying baby up at 2 a.m. yet again. This is going to be so much fun. Nah, I'm really excited to have my son home, man. So that's why if it seems like I'm kind of just boom, hit this, that's why I don't want you guys to be like, what the heck happened to Pat, man? He seemed like he was a little bit in a rush today. But I did want to get this news out to you because today's the day we got a chance to hear from the Chicago Bears OC and DC, Dennis Allen and Declan Doyle. Now, they have been two names who, I mean, listen, Dennis Allen has been a name that most people have really felt good about for a while now. That's the exciting hire of the offseason. That's the one that, to me, if I'm looking at, okay, what are we got Ben Johnson. What's the other thing that tells me that the Bears are serious? It's the fact that they went out and hired Dennis Allen. What Dennis Allen had to say today, I thought he was very I thought he came out very strong, talking about not just the DB unit as a whole, but also how he talked about Kyler Gordon. I mean, you want to talk about showing love. He seems like a guy who is going to love having Kyler Gordon on the roster. That seemed like a clear message. Me and Courtney talked about it the other day of, hey, this is a guy that we need here. Let's make sure that we get him re-signed if he is going to have those conversations now. Just felt like, to me, the fact that when he talks about this DB unit, he talks about everything that they can do, how they're able to play in man, how they're able to cover, what he's excited about. But he doesn't lose sight of the fact that it comes with the pressure. When he was asked about it, he was like, yeah, listen, you got to have the rush up front for the coverage to be good. Or vice versa, you got to have the coverage on the back end so that, or the coverage has to be good on the back end so that the rush up front, if it is good, is actually being effective there. It's a symbiotic relationship that it seems like Dennis Allen has understood over his time as a defensive coordinator, even as a head coach. I think that just some of the good things and the praises that he gave some of the talent that is already on the roster. It's exciting to hear that. And I've said this as much on this show. I believe that there are so many truly talented pieces on this roster, but you ignored the pieces up front that make them talented. Jalen Johnson's immensely talented. When you look at Tyreek Stevenson, I love the fact that immediately Al Harris shows up and tells Tyreek to go to a camp so that he's able to get some work in as a DB and working on his coverage skills and his takeaway skills based on some of the things that he's seen in his time in Dallas, right? Like, you've got a Tyreek Stevenson. You've got two really good safeties that he talked about how he can use those guys interchangeably. You've got TJ Edwards at that linebacker room. I think we saw Tremaine Edmonds be his best when we saw the pressure last season, being able to get to the quarterback. Like, you have all of these pieces, but having a guy in here, and not to say that I'm not going to sit here and say that Eric Washington didn't understand the relationship either. I do think that he did, but I also think you kind of have to look at the end results of what happened with this Bears defensive line and how they just fell apart going after the run. I don't know what led to that. I don't know what happened with that. I don't know how it got to being one of the best rush defenses in the world and then becoming one of the worst rush defenses in the league. But the fact that it got there, Dennis Allen with this mindset feels like the kind of guy who can get this thing back on track. We've seen him develop some really solid pieces, especially on the defensive line. I'm going to be really excited to see how he works with Montez Sweat. I'm going to be really excited to see how he works with Javon Dexter and what other pieces he's going to be able to get in here. And again, can you develop some of the names that are already on the defensive side of this ball? Can you develop an Austin Booker, who I looked back at my mock draft last year. I think I took Austin Booker in the 4th round, which, seeing as how we took a punter, I still would have taken him in the 4th round. Actually, my draft from last year was solid. It was really solid. But I looked back at that and just you have this guy on your team who seems like, okay, he's got this ability to use his speed, use his length, have that long arm move to be able to get around guys and be able to push guys off of them. You know, how do you develop more out of that? Zach Pickens is still on this roster. He's a 3rd round pick. Can you get more out of that? You have these names on the roster that you brought in. It's really about, can you get the most out of these guys and what they're going to be able to do? Those are the glue guys, man. Yes, I want to go get high picks. I hope in the 2nd round we draft a defensive end to go opposite Montez Sweat. But you have to have those glue guys that can come in and get you 4 or 5 sacks in a season so that you can really have those sack numbers, really have those quarterback pressures, and you're not burning guys out. I think that Dennis Allen's the right name for that. I'm excited about that. He also spent some time talking about how the Chicago Bears are going to be run this season, especially like the collaborative effort. And he talked about his time as a head coach, being a head coach who you kind of go through some of those struggle situations, but you go from a coordinator to being a head coach, and how he's going to be able to help Ben Johnson along with that as well. How he's going to be able to look at Ben Johnson and say, okay, these are some of the things that I did that were mistakes. Maybe we don't want to do that in this moment. Okay, these are some of the things that I did that I'm really good, that we were really good at. We need to utilize this more. This is how you take this step. Ben Johnson is learning through this entire process. And the one thing that I love about how he's putting this coaching staff together is something that Declan Doyle said as well. Not to kind of jump around here. We want to do this in parts, but what Declan Doyle said, I think it plays into what Dennis Allen is going to be able to do. As a play caller, Ben Johnson is going to have the least amount of time he has ever had to prepare for a game that he's going to have to call plays in. That's because he's the head coach now. That's because he's going to have to make all of the big plays. That's because he's going to have to sit there and make all of the big decisions, when to challenge. By the way, something Dennis Allen was really good at. I heard that with Shay and Tyler this morning. They did a phenomenal job covering the afternoon show today. I I believe he was 13-6 in challenges, over 60% wins in challenges in his time in New Orleans as a head coach. Like, that's really good. That's something he can help Ben Johnson with. But just having this staff built up around him of guys who can take on the mantle of, okay, when I'm doing this, I need you to do this because I'm not going to be preparing for that at that moment. When we get to the game, I need you to have that ready for me. Those are the things that I think on both sides of the football are going to be so pivotal to seeing Ben Johnson be a successful head coach in his first go round here and seeing this whole situation work in Chicago. Here's the thing we know. We know he can call plays. We know that he can put together a scheme. We know that he can put together an offense. What I love about a lot of the hires that he is making on both sides of the ball is it's not simply all on him. You look at the bringing in last night, and I guess we didn't really talk about this, but bringing in Press Taylor last night. The Chicago Bears hired Press Taylor as their passing game coordinator. Press Taylor is the guy that came up with the Philly special. I'm sure he's got more plays in there, but that's probably the biggest one that he is credited for, right? Having a guy who, wasn't a great play caller in his time in Jacksonville, did a terrible job, in fact, with Trevor Lawrence. But at the same time, he was able to, how do you get to that point? How do you build yourself up to the point where you get to be a play caller? Probably because you're implementing some really good plays that are being put on paper that you're able to go out there and execute and have a team execute. I think that things like that, bringing in people like that is just so exciting. And I look at it on the defensive side. I look at it with a guy like Dennis Allen. And to me, it all plays in to the same thing, the success of Ben Johnson. And you know what? I love that Dennis Allen said that today as well, that listen, he's big on being where his feet are. He's big on being where he's big on being in the moment, I guess I should say, right? And in that moment, somebody asked him, I think it was Pat Finley, about, do you want to be a head coach again? Is that something that you're still aspiring to do? And he said, listen, my job right now is to make sure that Ben is successful and make sure that this defense is working in the way that we expect it to work. I love hearing that because the expectation right now is he's probably not going to get another bite at the apple. It doesn't seem like, and I love the long-term and longevity of that possibility. That's why I love the Dennis Allen hire. Not to say I wouldn't want to see him be a head coach again. I hope everybody has as much success as they can handle, but the big thing right now is, can you have consistency in the Chicago Bears coaching staff? That's something we haven't had ever. Outside of maybe Ditka. I mean, you look at Lovey. Lovey had a brand new offensive coordinator just about every 2 or 3 seasons. You look at Matt Nagy. He changed his coaching staff continuously. Matt Eberflus continuously changed his coaching staff. None of those coaches worked out. Mark Trestman wasn't here long enough for us to care about it. John Fox, I mean, he brought in some solid. He actually brought in a really good coaching staff, if we're being honest with you, but it just didn't end up working out for you. So there's all of these guys that he brought in Vic Fangio. I kind of forgot about that. You always think of Fangio as a nagging guy, but he brought in Vic Fangio in that last year. The big thing for me, though, is this. Put yourself in a position to where you're comfortable doing your job. And I think that that's what Ben Johnson is doing. That's what has me really excited about the hires that we're seeing the Chicago Bears make here. It's what has me really excited about Dennis Allen. Hit that like button if you agree. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. I do want to point this out. First time we've gotten a chance to hear Declan Doyle talk. Came out of that press conference feeling like, okay, I see why this young man, you know what it felt like? Maybe this is a cocky moment. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It felt like kind of the situation that I have here working at ESPN, where so many people have doubted you. So many people have said you shouldn't be here, blah, 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 but you're just confident in yourself. You just know that you can. I've been doing this for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. Let's do this. I'm still here to learn more. I still want to take that next step. Blah, 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 blah. But I'm here to learn more. And I know this already. I can come in and have the confidence. He said last year was the first year that he was in a coaching staff, or I'm sorry, that he was in a room where he was older than his players. So he's used to being the youngest guy in the room. He's used to coaching guys while he's the youngest guy in the room. He's used to doing all of the going through all of the, I'm sure there's some hazing a little bit in there as well, but going through all of the, the process of, yeah, I'm young, but hey, this is what I can teach you. And you want to know what? He said something very poignant in his interview, in his press conference, I should say. He said, players care about you giving them the knowledge. If you give them the knowledge, that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you help them get better, that's all that matters at the end of the day. That's a confidence that I love to hear out of Declan Doyle. And I wish this young man nothing but success here in Chicago. I get it. He's going to be kind of the guy. And I just said it, right? He's going to be the guy that's going to be preparing for games, for moments where Ben Johnson can't, because he has to be the head coach now. He's going to be the guy who's up late nights. He's going to be the guy who's scheming for the next team. He's going to be the guy implementing the game plan and putting it out there at practice. He's going to be the guy doing a lot of the work. But he's come from a situation where Sean Payton was the play caller, and Joe Lombardi was sitting there as the OC, who's the non-play calling OC. So he's seen the experience of that. He's seen kind of what that looks like. He's seen what he needs to do. I think that's going to be big for the Chicago Bears, having somebody in there who has experience being or working with someone who is a non-play calling coach. That, to me, along with the fact that young mind seems like he comes very highly regarded. Dennis Allen even talked about him and talked about, as an offensive mind, how, he really is somebody who deserves to be in this position. It makes me feel a little bit better about the Declan Doyle hire. And I don't know if everybody took his press conference that way, but I left his press conference going, this young man feels confident about who he is, and he knows that he's supposed to be here, and he knows that he's supposed to be coaching the team this way, and he knows that this was the next step for him and that he's ready to take it. Like, I love that confidence, and that's what it felt like to me coming out of the press conference. There's not a ton you're going to take about it. There was a bunch of questions about, being young. There was a bunch of questions about how he's going to help Ben Johnson to make this transition easy. I don't think anybody got the Ditka question in, unless I missed it. Did anybody get confirmation on if this guy's Ditka's nephew? Nobody got confirmation on this? Nobody in that room with that? See, that's why I got to be in the room. That's my bad. I apologize to the Chicago Bears podcast audience, but I had something important to do today. Let me know your thoughts on the Declan Doyle hire. Let me know your thoughts on Dennis Allen. Got a chance to hear from him first time here. If you didn't get a chance to hear from him, you can go back and re-listen to them during Shay and Tyler's show from 10 to noon. They held the press conference. I want to say Declan Doyle came on around 11:30ish. I believe Dennis Allen was on around 10:45, somewhere in there. So tap in there if you want to re-listen to it. Of course, you can always re-listen to it over on the podcast platform on the ESPN 1000 app. Go ahead and download that as well. Hey, man, I'm going to get up out of here because I got to go pick up baby boy, but I appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on both of the new hires. Appreciate you guys, man. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Bed down. One love. Peace.